Portugal eu vou para o céu, eu lembro gente, eu lembro cheiro. De Lisboa a sua rua, seus caminhos, o chão que piso, o techo inteiro. Saudades das areias portuguesas, saudades dos fados em Lisboa, saudades dos seus portos marinheiros e o mar do meu Algarve que namora. Vontade de uma noite inesquecível, brindar com vinho verde na janela, sentir a vida inteira num abraço, ouvindo uma guitarra portuguesa. Vontade de voltar à minha terra, ficar do teu lado enquanto viva, de ver amanhecer no meu barquinho, cantar juntos Estefado à deriva. Do oceano Alentejo se sente a vida, chegou de cheio. Sempre Portugal na minha alma, marca meus passos, meus sonhos calma. Saudades das areias portuguesas, saudade dos fados em Lisboa, saudade dos seus portos marinheiros e o mar do meu Algarve que namora. Vontade de uma noite inesquecível, brindar com vinho verde na janela, sentir a vida inteira num abraço, ouvindo uma guitarra portuguesa. Vontade de voltar à minha terra, ficar do teu lado enquanto viva, de ver amanhecer no meu barquinho, cantar juntos Estefado à deriva. Portugal na minha alma, marca meus passos, meus sonhos calma.
All right. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful planet of ours. This is Metaphysical Meetup with Marc live here on my social media platforms. I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the intuitive prospector, decorated veteran, explorer, teacher, writer, psychic, medium, spiritualist, world traveler, curious about all things that are seen and unseen. So if you're new to the page, welcome, welcome, welcome. Chime in, type in where you're from. I've been off for a few weeks traveling the beautiful country of Portugal, and just got back late last night, so I'm still a little jet lagged, but love it. Love traveling, loved the country, and this morning I'm going to talk about a few things about the spiritual benefits of traveling outside of one's country and some of the benefits that can include. But before we begin, just want to say good morning to my administrators and team that help me keep the social media platforms positive. I try to use all my social media platforms, whether it's my podcast, Inspired Living, marclainhart.com, Facebook page, TikTok page, Instagram page, YouTube page. Try to always promote positivity in our world, and unity and kindness and caring and compassion, and we definitely need that more than ever in our world. That's one of the things I'm going to be talking about this morning on Metaphysical Meetup, was getting perspective of what's going on around the world, not just what's happening here in the United States, but also abroad in other countries. So I do want to say first that song is by Ruby Amanafu. The song is called Keep Going, and that's what I hope that you'll do, is you'll keep going. And I always promote the artists that their music is free. There's no copyrights or trademarks. I'm not infringing on their work, and I always want to promote them. And then the other song, I may have lost it here. It was called Portugal. Let me see if I can re-find it here. Give me 1 second here, and we'll get into today's message. Okay, it looks like I'll have to retype it in, so let me just retype it in. Portugal. So it was called. It's by Julian Alvarez, and the song is Mu Lindo Portugal. Just wanted to give those two artists credit where credit's due. A lot of times I see that in the world where people infringe or plagiarize or take other people's work and then claim it as their own. So I really am very mindful and very aware and very respectful to other people's influences in my work that I do, but also pay it forward in what I do. So let me just double check, make sure that the sound is okay. In my work that I do, but also pay it forward in what I do. So let me just double check, make sure that the sound is okay. We got a little bit of feedback here. Let me just double check our speakers and our sound quality here. Like I said, I haven't been on the air for about 3 weeks. I've been off the air. And our sound quality here. Like I said, I haven't been on the air. There's a little bit of noise here. Let me see if I can clean up that reverberation here real quick. Go over to my settings and just make sure that we're broadcasting okay. So I did a sound check earlier and it was fine. Some of the changes that you have to deal with when you're running these shows. I do want to make an announcement while I'm doing that, doing two things at once. Input, let's see, let's turn that up. Check that. Okay. Hopefully, if somebody could let me know, that would be great. Really appreciate that. And let's see here. I do want to make a couple announcements. I've got an expo coming up next month here locally, the Conscious Wellness Expo. It's one of the expos I do every year, both in the spring and the fall. So you can check out the events page at marclainhart.com. Also have, now that I'm back fresh from vacation, got a couple events coming up. Going to be talking and exploring more of some plant medicines. Hape, talking about my experiences with plant medicines and the healing and transformational aspects of plant medicines. And also some experience the etheric, teaching people how to connect into their higher self and who they are, to know themselves, but also the spiritual world and what is unseen. Again, just because we don't see it in our world doesn't mean it's not around us. I always say that we have 3 eyes in life: 2 to look, 1 to see. And technology, science proves that every single day, from gravity to the wind that blows through the trees, to Wi-Fi, to the air that we breathe, to the things not seen by the human eye, but things that are seen by the microscope, the telescope, the James Webb. I mean, we're learning every day more and more about what is unseen. And again, that's, you have to think in terms of, you know, a three-dimensional construct, and we can get into details about a fourth-dimensional construct, fifth-dimensional construct, because that also opens up the vision here, especially also with plant medicines. But this morning, and those will be upcoming shows. But what I want to talk about, because it's, you know, it's always, for me, I'm a world traveler. I've been traveling for many, many years. I've been to many, many different countries, and I'll have to give a big shout out to the country of Portugal. These are my new glasses, my reading glasses holder that I purchased for 650 euros. But I want to really give a shout out to this country here, Portugal. Just for the fact that I'm wearing their soccer team shirt. This is their national shirt. Loved it. But I want to give a shout out because the people were so friendly. The people were so kind. Every time I tried to speak Portuguese, because I do speak a few different languages now, English, Spanish, Portuguese, a little bit of French, a little bit of German, but every time I tried to speak Portuguese, I would ask, you know, você fala inglês? Do you speak English? And they'd be like, yes, and then they would go into English. So very well English-speaking country, but then I'd say, no, I want to fale Portuguese, por favor. And so then they would work with me, and just really made some really good relationships, and really just the people there, hardworking, kind, really just went out of their way. We had, you know, we were in the 3 weeks we were in country because we drove around. We got a car and drove around, and I covered every aspect of this country, from the middle of Lisboa down to up to Porto, down to the Algarves and everything in between. I mean, we were on some roads we were like, where the hell are we? Like, there was nothing. Right, but that's the beauty of traveling and exploring your world. And but every place we went, there was maybe just one or two exceptions that were, you know, people were maybe just having a bad day, or, you know, just life was getting the best of them, and that happens, right? We're human. But I have to say, I was very impressed. I will definitely be going back to Portugal more and more. I'm already looking forward, from the food to the people to the wine to some of the places that we visited were absolutely stunning and absolutely beautiful. Some places were just historically old that it's so hard to get your mind around that you're walking in this castle, you know, that's from the 1100s or 900 AD. You know, it's thousands of years old. Or doing an olive oil tasting from a tree. Literally, we went to a private olive oil tasting, and this tree was over 2,000 years old, and we had olive oil right out. It was literally outside the window where we had our olive oil testing, and it's just like 2,000 years ago. That tree was just being planted, and it's still in the family today. And of course, people want those, right? The owner, very humble, Joao, he did the tasting for us, and very hardworking math teacher on his, you know, he does this, it keeps us in the family. But he had said somebody had come from Qatar or Dubai and wanted to actually dig up this tree, this 2,000-year-old olive tree, and purchase it. But it wasn't about the money, and I love that. I love that integrity about people. But, you know, when you step outside of your own country, you learn a lot about yourself and the world around you. And the people of Portugal were very, from a first impression, there's always that saying, you never get a second chance to make that first impression, right? Their first impressions all the way across, I would give this country an A+ rating. You know, just definitely worth the visit, worth the experience, worth the soul adventure. I always like to say soul adventures that we have in our lives. And I have to say too, you know, the flights, we flew the German airlines for the first time, very good. Flew Air Canada for the first time, very, very highly recommended Air Canada, and the food was great. The people, the flight attendants were awesome and very friendly. So overall, a good 3 weeks out of country to gain perspectives about our world. I do have to say, one of the perspectives that we did gain is when the first night we were in Lisbon. It's called, in Portugal, it's Lisboa, but we in the States would say Lisbon. We had actually, just a few hours, had gotten our picture on the famous trams that go up and down the hills. And just a few hours later, we had learned that there were 17 tourists that were killed. It was Portugal's largest transportation accident, I think, in their history. And it literally, the cable snapped and the cable car ran down the hill and smashed into the wall, and it killed 17 tourists, including, so I got to lower my hand, including one American, a 3.5-year-old, a few Portuguese, a few Chinese, but 17 tourists had lost their lives, and it really kind of just gave us perspective. So I'm thinking of, I'm just going to throw some hearts out to the families and the friends of those fellow travelers that could have been, luckily Jenny said, hey, it's pretty packed, it's a pickpocket heaven. They say, be careful of the pickpockets, which that's in every country, right? And so we decided not to get on, but we have our picture in front of it. And then just a few hours later, the tragedy and the traumas that that came to this part of the world, and those 17 people that were chosen. I do believe that there are certain times in our journeys that the timing is your time here on the planet ends, and your next journey begins. I've done past shows and podcasts where I've talked about, on average around the world, and I got to experience that firsthand, was there's about 150,000 people every single day that do not make it to the next day, don't open their eyes, pass away in a horrible transportation accident, airplane crashes, drownings, old age, sickness. So it just is always, that's always been in my mind, in my journey. And that night, 17 people contributed to that 150,000 people on average. Again, you don't count pandemics, you don't count wars. So that was really an eye-opening perspective to be out of country. And we had to send a text to our family to let them know that we were okay, because they knew that we were in Lisbon. And but it just really brought some perspective to our travels, and I just want to again send my heartfelt condolences and holding space for those 17 individuals, their family, their friends, that ring of influence, that people that know them, that are impacted by death and dying and trauma and tragedy. So again, if you're new to the show, welcome. This is Metaphysical Meetup with Marc live. I'm going to get over on the page, just make sure that we are. I think we're broadcasting. I hope we're broadcasting. If not, I'm just sitting here talking to myself. But I try to be here on Fridays, most Fridays, if I'm not traveling or doing an event. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm here in Seattle, Washington. Again, I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, all about learning, growing, transforming, healing, expanding, evolving. And one of the things that I think is very, very important about travel, especially being a world traveler, and you don't have to be a world traveler, just even stepping outside of your own town can be beneficial to learn more about people, learn more about the good things and the bad things about our world. And I think one of the things that I've learned in traveling in my spiritual journey, and some of the benefits of, I feel like there's numerous benefits. And if you want to grab your coffee, grab your tea, kick back with me on this discussion. Broaden perspectives is huge, and what I mean by that is to expose yourself to different cultures, history, ideas. Even the political environment of being outside the country has been, there was a lot of things that happened while we were outside the country. That transportation accident that I just talked about, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, passing of Robert Redford. I'm just trying to think about all the things that had taken place, that it can be very impactful and historical, and how each country talks about that stuff, because it was talked about. Not just, you always think you're in the United States and you just talk about U.S. news. Even out of country, they talk about what's going on in the United States, which I found very interesting, both in Portuguese, French, German, English, the UK, all the political stuff. But what I found from this is it exposes you to those different cultures, ideas, opinions. Right? Opinions are a big part of this. Lifestyles that foster open-mindedness and empathy. Again, I find that enhanced in cultural awareness when we travel outside of one's comfort zone, and that's the same with even the spiritual aspects of development, is stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I found that understanding and appreciating cultural difference promotes tolerance, and I think it helps reduce prejudges, conscious biasms. I find that in my travels, I get personal growth from speaking different language to interacting and getting ideas. One example, practicing my Portuguese and asking for the restroom. And you see in the United States, it's the restroom, the bathroom. Over there, it's the water closet, the WCs. And then if you want to speak in Spanish, it's the baños. In Brazilian, it's the banheiros. And so when I asked for the banheiros in northern part of Portugal, she said that's Brazilian. And I was like, okay, well, what is Portuguese? And you have to put a casa de in front of it, the casa de banheiros. I was like, oh, okay, so you learn different things. And even just the variances between some people speak Spanish there, but some are from the Mexico part of the world, or they're in country speaking Spanish, and there's a big difference. So just learning different languages, but the personal growth that I learned from that, and overcoming challenges in unfamiliar environments, I think builds confidence and resilience and humility. Say like, oh, I'm learning, because I've always said that life is an acronym, LIFE. Learn it from experience, right? The educational opportunities, learning how systems work outside of the country, I find to be very, very educational for me. Especially the younger generation. We got to talk with people that were older, more seasoned than my age, but also the younger generation that were more into the tourist side of boat driving, servers, and understanding how the system either works or doesn't work for them, their healthcare, their educational system. And so those educational opportunities and learning about different parts of the world, whether it's new languages, history, environments, I find that it improves not only our human knowledge and our soul adventures, but also our personal development. And so my spiritual development is also a big part of my world travels, is to understand, to know thyself. Stress reduction. I find that in changing surroundings and experiencing new environments can improve our mental health, which we need to have a real frank discussion about the way the world's going. Because again, when I was out of country and watched different news agencies, it's not just here in the United States that has these immigration problems. Now we have a gun problem, right, and a mass shooting problem. I get that. But talking with people, we talked to this nice couple from Australia and learning their perspectives about gun rights and their political party. Talking with people from Portugal, the UK, and watching what was happening in France, watching what was happening in the UK, watching what's happening with immigration problems all around the world in many different countries. Again, watching what was happening in Russia and Ukraine, horrible situation, the Gaza, Israel, and the Palestinian people, and just watching all of that and seeing that the struggle is for everybody. And sometimes we forget that freedom is not free, and that's always a good reminder to me. But it also helps me to understand the environments in which I am learning and really have a lot of gratitude for the life that I have here in the United States, and seeing that what's going on around the world. NATO was on high alert when we were there because Russia was incurring into Poland and Romania with their drones. And if you follow my work, you can go right here and get my past publications. You can get my book. Here's a closer up of my book, Between Worlds, Reflections Between Worlds, about my journey of becoming a professional psychic and medium. My podcast, Inspired Living, I've talked about the changes coming from our roaring 20s of transformation, and starting all the way back in 2017, that this decade would be a decade of great transformation. I've also talked about the great coming together. I've also talked about civil war, revolution, world wars, and that's part of just the world and the makeup. We've always had a history of violence, which is different, is the social media platforms and the news cycles that actually just constantly contribute to that. And so we see it more, and it's impacting people from around the world. And there was a lot of people that were nervous about the world stability right now, just even being out of country. Asked people, have you been in the United States? And a lot of people would say, no, but I think we'll wait, because of the uncertainties and the political climate and the divides and the mass shootings and everything that's going on. But for me, I try to always find the good in the day, again, because I don't know if this is my last day, right? 150,000 people every single day. I could have been on that tram in Lisbon, and my wife Jenny and I could have called it a day and been part of those 17 tourists that were killed internationally, right? So it just really brings back to my mind about who we are, and celebrating the day, the carpe diem, the present moment, And I find and there were times we were stressed. We were in streets where we got into some pretty tight spots. A rule to live by is don't drive into walled cities because the streets get very tight. Luckily, we had we were upgraded to a Volvo, which I was really impressed with. Nice job, Volvo. Kind of a longer, slender car where we could actually put our suitcase in the back and cover everything up so we didn't get, so that it didn't get stolen or somebody broke into our car. But don't drive into a walled city. My recommendation is park outside the walled city and walk in or take a transportation system in, because those streets are not like the streets here in the United States. They get very, very tight, very, very tight. And so there was a couple, places where we got, navigation took us way off the beaten path. Still got to our destination, but we're looking around like there's nothing in sight. Please don't get a flat tire. Please, Volvo, don't break down. Because I don't know what we do, right? There was no cell phone signals in some of the places. I mean, we were some very off-road trying to get to our locations, because again, we went from the center of Lisbon up to the north, a little bit into Spain, came back down the center through the Douro Valley, back down to the Algarves, and then back up to Lisbon. So we covered the entire country of Portugal. And there was some stress there, but I also find in those stressful moments, practice a pause, take a deep breath, and it can improve mental health, and it can improve your determination, your mentality, and your drive to be like, okay, don't assume the worst. Try to find the good in what you're learning from that present moment. So I also found in traveling outside of the country in one's own personal solo adventure, the global networking. We made some new friends. Shout out to Bob and Nancy from New Jersey. Shout out to Paulo Bashur, one of our drivers. Shout out to all the staff and all the waiters and waitresses that took really good care of us. We made some really great networking friends, and I think that's important for traveling. That global networking, meeting new people, expressing social and professional networks and opinions and views, right? I think that's important. But also, I've also learned, to be mindful. It's interesting because when we're out of country, we actually say we're from Canada, because we can sit and watch, and I guess it's a knock on us as a citizenship here in the United States, but I found when, especially when I speak a different language, one guy actually thought I was Portuguese. So, but when you sit and you listen and you observe and don't absorb your surroundings, it's really easy to tell where people are from. The Dutch, the German, the French, the English, the Americans, the Yankees, the Canadians. And so when we travel, we actually say that we're from our sister city, Vancouver, which is just 120 miles north of us, Vancouver, BC, because we can really see the American mentality out of country. And a lot of people, I witnessed a few times where people are like, oh, you don't speak English? Like, the expectation is, no, you're in Portugal, and you're here to speak their language first. And if they speak English, great. But just because you can't speak two languages, that's a knock on you. And so we would see many times a lot of entitlement, very loud and aggressive, boisterous behaviors coming from Americans. So when we travel, and maybe that's just from experience and learning and education, we do the opposite. We try to be keep a very monotone voice, don't speak loud, don't demand stuff, don't come across as entitled. But that's another thing I've learned in my educational opportunities, is to observe, and it's really easy to see, and I'm not just saying it's the Americans that can be that way. I found the French to be that way. I found the Germans to be that way, and even the English that way. So if it's of interest to learn about yourself, travel outside your own country. Travel outside your own comfort zone is what I'm saying. There will be stresses, but it's about how you deal with those stresses that can actually reduce the stress, give you that higher perspective in education, and also help with mental health. Building those networks that I talked about, that global network, but most importantly, the adventure and the fun. The people, the food, the drink, the wine, the desserts, the gelato, the history. My God, the history is just mind-blowing. We're so young as a country here in the United States, yet we think we're so old. I lived in Boston. I served in the U.S. Coast Guard for 3 years in Boston, the roots, the home of the colonies, right? Philadelphia, Boston, New York. And we think that we're so old, but we're not. In the grand scheme of things, we're actually quite young when you think about it. But the adventure and the fun that comes from traveling outside of your comfort zone, traveling outside your own country, the new experiences and the activities that are provided that bring you joy and laughter, and we did our first Michelin star experience. And if you're not familiar with Michelin, I did not know that the Michelin experience, maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't. I've heard of Michelin stars. We went to two experiences, a 2-star Michelin and a 1-star Michelin, but I had no idea that the Michelin is the Michelin tires, the Michelin Man, that they get the Michelin Man, the tires, the guy that's all tires, white, tires, he's a man of tires. They get an award, and it's the Michelin. I'm like, how do tires tie into food experiences, right? Maybe I'll have you prospect on what that means, but I didn't understand that. It's about your travels and where your travels can take you. So we did a 1-star Michelin experience and a 2-star Michelin experience, and OMG, you want to talk about food porn? My goodness, that experience with the tastings, the wine pairings, the foods, some of them you're just like, how is that even possible? That's the adventure and the fun and the experiences that I'm talking about stepping outside of your comfortable environment. Increased creativity, I found. I've got a lot to write about, a lot to share in the weeks and months ahead from my experience of spending 3 weeks in this beautiful country of Portugal. But being exposed to different environments and different cultures and different history stimulates that creative thinking, for me anyways. Maybe it's not for you, but for me it does. I'm going to talk about another spiritual experience that I had in Fatima, maybe next week, where we actually, if you've never heard of a body double experience, somebody that's passed, that was close to you, and then seeing them like they're alive in the real world, it's very mind-blowing. That happened to both of us, both Jenny and myself, in Fatima. I'll talk about the history of that, what took place at a later time, but just still gives me chills, still brings tears to my eyes. And those experiences, and what that does is it gets me to increase my creativity and my inspiration to what the guests that are coming on Inspired Living in the few months that we have left of 2025. We're already scheduling guests into 2026. And one of the announcements I want to make is we are moving into Om Times Television. So the podcast will now start to be streamed through Om Times Television, and then we'll still podcast to wherever you get your favorite podcasting shows from on all those platforms: Spotify, SoundCloud, Deezer, YouTube, Apple iTunes. There's a whole list, and so we are streaming through those. But starting later this month or early next month, I'm going to actually be on Om Times Television and interviewing my guests, and then that'll podcast out the regular audio format. But just a big shout out to you listeners that follow the journey, follow my work, get on my newsletter, Soul Adventures. Again, everything's right here at marclainhart.com. The podcast has now been voted and downloaded and ranked as a best inspirational podcast and a best spiritual podcast. So I really appreciate that. And that creative juices that are flowing that I'm talking about, that will start to come into my own reality of what I write and talk and podcast about from my experiences of traveling 3 weeks in this beautiful country of Portugal. It's a break from your routine as well, right? It's a break from your routine. I found that traveling offers a reset, helping to maybe reevaluate personal goals and priorities and get out of that routine. And then being out of country and helping other people, right? Still being in service. We're still human beings. And like I said, some of the kindest people I've met have been in this country. So kudos. Thank you for the experience. Thank you for the soul adventures. And, the things that I found in this journey of, improved adaptability is another thing that I think is important. Navigating different settings enhances flexibility and problem solving, skills. From that spiritual perspective that I've been talking about, it changes one's outlooks by deepening self-discovery. Encounters with new environments often leads to introspection and a better understanding of oneself. Expanding your consciousness. I think the next revolution that we're witnessing in our roaring 20s of transformation is the revolution of consciousness. And again, just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not here. Learning that we're not alone in this universe or on this planet. Maybe we're not the most intelligent species that we think that we are. Maybe there is a hierarchy to other things. But exposure to diverse spiritual beliefs, because in this country, very religious, very, especially with some of the places around the country, very focused on religion. Now, I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person, and there's a big difference between those. So no knock on the religion or people that follow any religion. It's just I'm personally not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person. Um, but the expanding of that consciousness to understand that maybe you become spiritual from traveling outside the country, or maybe you become more religious, or maybe you start to pray a little bit more. I don't know. But that's why I'm offering this perspective this morning with you. And one of the things I'd want to, especially being out of the country and all the things that have taken place over the last few weeks, I would highly recommend to start normalizing not having an opinion about things that you're not informed on. We see a lot of people with opinions based on social media and the news cycles. I've really tried to start normalizing not having an opinion. And I'll say that to people. I don't know enough about a topic to really speak about it. I can give you my opinion, but opinions, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. There's a set of facts and the universal laws of the ways of the world. There's your opinion to it, but those don't change. Your opinions are not your facts. There's a big difference. And even Plato said it best, quote, "Opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance." And I would say that, when you travel with your opinions, learn different cultures and different perspectives, and that's going to bring you more knowledge and less ignorance, right? So normalize not having an opinion about something you're not informed on. Because there was a couple things that happened while we were out of country that I was seeing people having their opinions on, but were they truly informed on it, or were they just reacting and absorbing the cultural aspects of what they saw on TikTok or social media or Instagram or Facebook, YouTube, the news cycle, right? So, I found traveling also from a spiritual standpoint is fostering compassion and unity. From that tram accident that we saw, the compassion and outpouring of kindness and compassion and caringness, witnessing the universality of the human experience, how it nurtures compassion and a sense of interconnectedness, because I've also talked about, if you followed my work, I've also talked about the great coming together, that something is going to bring this planet together and move past. We'll always have politics, and we'll always have politicians that want to divide. And, Einstein said it best, the three things that rule the world: fear, ignorance, and greed, right? That'll always be our place in the world. But, whether they're events from, through nature or through the universe or from space, something will bring what I call, and have seen in my downloads and my meditations and my writings and my podcasts, the great coming together. Now you have to wait for that. I always say wait, watch, and witness, because the best part about the future is it comes one day at a time. So, but I found that traveling in expands consciousness, but it also fosters that compassion and unity. And I always say be kind, caring, and compassionate in what you do. And, when you reflect out, it reflects back. Reconnecting with nature. Now, I'm drinking coffee, but I'm still on vacation, so I got a little Bailey's in my coffee this morning. But reconnecting with nature, visiting natural landscapes can deepen that spiritual connection, that spiritual transformation, and that spiritual healing. And especially when you're connecting to the earth and its rhythm and its energy and its vibration and its frequency. Nikola Tesla always said, if you want to unlock the secrets of the universe, you got to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. I find that 100% true. There's a few days that we traveled way north, up way past Porto, up to the border of Spain. They had a national federal park that you actually drive into. It's the size, it would be equivalent to perspective, it would be the size of Yosemite, Joshua Tree, Yellowstone. I can't remember right out how many kilometers it was, but it was the size of the state of Connecticut, maybe, or it was the size of one of the U.S. states. That's how big this federal park was, and it was way up north. So if you get on the globe and go to Portugal and go way north from the Algarves and past Porto, we went up there for a few days, stayed in an old monastery, which was awesome. That was our hotel, and then tons of hikers. But the cool thing about reconnecting with the nature is the rivers, the trees. They're the beautiful trees. Touched a few trees, got in some rivers, did some hiking. But one of the coolest experiences was we're driving along, and here's this huge bull right out in the open. Just this huge woolly brown bull with horns. I got pictures where it's right up next to my window looking at me. I'm like, please don't attack. Please don't scratch the Volvo. But these, beautiful cows and bulls just walking in the roadway, and they know that you're coming. They get out of the way. Sheep and goats, and they don't have a lot of the same type of mountains that we do. They were pretty good. Elevation 22,000, 2,500, but they don't have a lot of mountain lions and bears and like we do on this side of the planet. And I'm sure they do, but they're just not really known. Like we even looked for squirrels and we didn't see squirrels, so we had to research, are there squirrels in Portugal? And there are, and they're red squirrels. They have like really cool ears with little things on top of their ears, but they said they're so not seen that they actually say if you see one, report it so they can actually measure where they're at in their migrations and what they're doing. So even just squirrels, right, was interesting. But getting and reconnecting with that nature was a big part of our trip as well, and just getting into that history, touching old castles, just some very cool, interesting perspectives and visions and dreams that I had while I was there in country, because I dreamed pretty exclusive and pretty in detail. But reconnecting with nature can be transformative and very, very healing. So I would highly recommend it as part of the perspectives of your spiritual journey, traveling outside of your own country, outside of your own comfort zone. Breaking your limitations. I find that enhancing different cultural and spiritual traditions and religious traditions can challenge preconceived notions and open the heart to new spiritual truths, right? That's why I love to travel. And now that I'm retired, I plan on traveling even more. Not just to go learn about different countries or sit on the beach and watch the Atlantic roll in and the Algarves and have a nice cocktail, of course, but to learn more about who I am, my place in the world, and my spiritual journey. To write about it, to podcast about it, to speak about it on my shows. So again, breaking limitations is a huge part of traveling outside of your country, wherever you're from. Promoting inner peace. I found that the transformative experiences that I've gone through these last 3 weeks, especially with my healing, for those of you following my journey, my work, I've had a lot of surgery since last year. In fact, 4, and I've got to now have a 5th one next month. Unfortunately, I got 2 herniated discs that have to be repaired. So in early October, that'll be my 5th surgery since last April. Not this April of 2024. So, traveling can be tough. Thank you for pain meds to help me get through that. Carrying your suitcase, walking with my knee and my back, very helpful, very, very helpful for the part of my rehab. And so, promoting that inner peace is also your wealth, or your health, because your true wealth is your health. Wealth, I guess, is important, but without your health, wealth doesn't really matter. So the promoting that inner peace has really helped being out of country these last 3 weeks. And those transformative experiences and everything I've listed out in detail, from global networking, meeting new people, new foods, history, perspectives, enhancing your mindfulness, moving past conscious bias and expanding your consciousness, reconnecting with nature, breaking your own limitations. I find that travel can lead, and it doesn't have to be international travel, it can be even just local travel where you're at, can lead to inner harmony, different perspectives, and the thing that we're all striving for, which we call enlightenment. But even after enlightenment, you still got to clean the toilet, you still got to tend the garden, you still got to do your chores, right? Even when you have that enlightenment. And I feel after 3 weeks in this beautiful country, again, just a big shout out to this beautiful country of Portugal. Thank you for the experiences. Thank you for a step closer to my own journey of enlightenment, and I really just appreciate being able to experience that. So I'll just conclude with, travel not only enriches the mind, the body, and the spirit, but it also, I find, traveling nurtures the soul. I find that fostering a more holistical, historical, and connected to outside yourself is part of that spiritual journey, to know thyself, that spiritual outlook, that spiritual forecasting. So if you're not on the spiritual path, that's okay too. Take it one day at a time. But I can guarantee you, if you step outside of your own comfort zone, including travel, international travel, domestic travel, local travel, you'll gain a lot about who you are in this world and the world around you. So let me just give some shout outs if there's anybody on. Again, I've been off for a few weeks. For my subscribers, I will make it up to you. I will give a special announcement on that coming up. But just remember, the first Friday of every month, I was out of country. I was actually traveling, so I couldn't do it. For my Patreon prospectors, my Diamonds Hub subscribers, you can subscribe right here at marclainhart.com. First Friday of every month is Diamond Days, where you can have sessions with me in the morning and the afternoon. So I reach both my domestic and my international subscribers for readings, for guidance, for meditations, for healings, for sound baths, for perspective, for coaching, and everything in between. So if you want to get on, just go right here. This is your one-stop shop. My calendar is now back open for bookings and readings. We will be on the air next week. I'm not sure if we're going to do the television next week. It's going to be either next week or 2 weeks after the first part of October, where we're actually moving Inspired Living to Om Times Television. It will still be Om Times Radio, and it will still podcast, but the initial shows will now be streaming out through Om Times Television through social media platforms. So I'm excited for that, and excited for the guests that are going to be coming. But, and I would just finish with, try to, like I bring it back to Plato. Opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance, and we have a lot of ignorance in the world right now, just based on what people are feeding from and watching. I would say try to normalize not having an opinion about something that you aren't informed on, and even say, I'm not informed on that, I can't have an opinion about it. That's okay. That shuts down a conversation really quick, but otherwise the conversation goes back and forth. And I even saw that out of country. That was very interesting, with different perspectives and different opinions. But they also say opinions are like elbows and eyebrows, and almost everybody has them. So be mindful of that. But most importantly, have fun today. Have a great rest of your weekend as we close out this summer. Thank you to my team. Thank you to the subscribers, the followers, the fans. I really appreciate you. I'm glad to be back with you today, having a cup of coffee and a chat. Again, I'll be back next Friday now that I'm back. If you want to learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, what I'm writing, what I'm podcasting, just look up the Intuitive Prospector or marclainhart.com, and we can get together and do some prospecting to find your own diamond within, right? Not only the diamond within, but the many hidden gems that are all around us. So we'll go over to the Facebook page real quick. I'll cue up a song to close this out with. I'm going to close this out with, I'm going to do another, it's called Sierra by Colectivo. It's from, I typed in Portugal. You know what? I'm going to close back with a song I opened, Mi Lindo Portugal by Julian Alvarez. Just to pay tribute and respect and honor and gratitude and thankfulness again to this beautiful country of Portugal, which I will be going back to. Shoot, maybe I'll even buy a house there and vacation there in the summer. Who knows? So, okay. So let's go to the Intuitive Prospector. Jump into the page. A couple of you are on. Hi, Emily. Hi, Kara. Good to see you too, my friend. Thanks for being here. Okay. So just a few of you on this morning. Again, been out of country for the last 3 weeks. Haven't been on the air, but I'm back. Podcast this next Wednesday. That show, Inspired Living, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, is the live broadcast, and then it encores throughout the week, and then it will stream over to the other podcasting platforms. To be honest with you, I don't know who I'm interviewing. I probably should know on the 24th. Don't tell my guests this, because I got on my calendar, it says to be determined. So I've got an awesome team that takes care of my scheduling now and marketing and handling all the PR pitches, and so I haven't updated my calendar. But I'm also, to my defense, I'm pretty jet lagged because I've been 8 hours in the future, and now I'm back in Seattle, and it's like I'm waking up as we were going to sleep. So, but it'll be a fantastic guest. No, I guarantee you that. We've got awesome guests coming up. So we'll be back on the air Wednesday, be back on the air next Friday, and again, we're moving over to Om Times Television. I'll have to talk to my producer on what that looks like coming up. But I just appreciate all of you. Thanks for listening to me talk about, the spiritual healing and evolution and consciousness and transformations of traveling internationally, traveling outside of your own country to learn about yourself and the amazing people that are all around. There's amazing people all around the world. So please, please, please remember that. And travel not only enriches the mind, body, and spirit, but it also nurtures the soul, and it fosters a more holistic and connected spiritual outlook, if that's what you're after. All right, y'all. To our next soul adventure together. Be kind, be caring, be compassionate. Most importantly, wherever you're at in this world, whether you're here in Seattle, You're here in Portugal or somewhere in between, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and discover the diamond within. We'll see you next time here on Metaphysical Meetup with Marc Live, here on the Intuitive Prospector page. Take care. Namaste, Namago.
Do Portugal ao bom Brasil, eu lembro gente, eu lembro cheiro. Olhas por ruas, os caminhos, o chão que pisou, o techo inteiro. Saudades das areias portuguesas, saudades dos fados em Lisboa, saudades dos seus portos marinheiros e o mar do meu Algarve que namora. Vontade de uma noite inesquecível, brindar com vinho verde na chanela, sentir a vida inteira num abraço, ouvindo uma guitarra portuguesa. Vontade de voltar à minha terra, ficar do outro lado enquanto viva, de ver amanhecer no meu barquinho, cantar juntos Estefado à deriva.
One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.